David, I'm going to play this while I do some copy and pasting.
Oh,
So
okay.
people will see us, but we're not going to talk for a minute, okay?
Good.
All right.
Sure. I think, and I really strongly feel, our role is to uplift other people. And there's a great tendency in our culture at the moment almost to go in the other direction.
Then you got to check out the bass, because there's an instrument that brings joy and expertise and the foundation of sound to everything.
And I think that part of our job, artists in this country, is first of all to embrace the rest of the world and respect other people and the way they look at things. And secondly, if we're doing something in art, to try to uplift people who come to an event of any kind, and also try to honor those people who came before us who might not be appreciated, who were also uplifting people. That's not that hard. It's hard to do, but it's not hard as a goal. It was, is, and always will be a wonderful world. I see skies of blue, clouds of white, the bright, blessed days, and the dark, sacred night. And I think to myself, what wonderful world. I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me, for you. And I think to myself, what wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of the people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? But what they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what wonderful world. sky are also on the faces of the people walking by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? But what they're really saying is, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Oh, very cute, man. That was really nice. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my guest, David Amram. This is the second time I've had him on, but it's been a while because I think I actually had you on early in the pandemic, maybe in 2021 or something. David, right?
Oh, I know. I was trying to remember. To me, that was just a great blur, except I could see it was the band that played on E-Town, and it was wonderful. The great guitar player I've known for so long. We met.
Oh, on this video?
Yeah, we met at a folk festival in 1970,
Oh,
and he said, "I don't play any jazz." They were Hot Riser, a fantastic group, and then I got on, and he said the same thing all those years later. I said, "Well, just be you." He said, "That's all the jazz we need," and they were never done anything in quite. They were wonderful, wonderful musicians. I mention that because we have a whole country of incredibly good musicians, including you, and also can really sing up a storm. I've I recently made a record for the Guthrie Foundation. Nora Guthrie, she said, "I really like the way you sing. It's so different." I
yeah.
have a whole. I said, "Well, I can tell you about 300 singers that I think are great, and
Uh-huh.
I only play for them.
Yeah.
I just sung in the shower, but it was really fun. We did a whole thing of Woody Guthrie songs and a Phil Oakes song. It was really fun to do, but I said, I'll make you one promise. I'll never make a Frank Sinatra album, an homage album. I said, and there's so many, but actually everybody can sing. Dizzy Gillespie said that. He said, everybody's a drummer and everybody can sing. Everybody's got some music in their heart. And what he tried to do to every person he ever met was to encourage and inspire them, whatever their limitations were, to forget about it and just get into the music and be for real at that moment.
Yeah.
And everything else is only knowing him since 1951. I really appreciated, I think even more since he passed on, what a fantastic composer he was and a fantastic musician. When I listened to some of the stuff that he played, I said, holy cow, he was so advanced, but he still had the most important thing, which was to really love the music, love the musicians he was playing with, and love the people he was playing for. And like Sonny Rollins and so many other people that I knew and was lucky enough to play with, they never talked about themselves. They talked about others that came before them, others that were their contemporaries, and about music. And that's something that is still here, even in these difficult, weird times we have. And the difficult, weird times will pass by, as they always have. And a lot of the people that we might disagree with, to put it mildly, will be in what I call the landfill of the deservedly forgotten. And we'll still be out here
I like that. The
scuffling.
landfill of the deservedly forgotten.
Right.
That's a great statement.
Well, I thought of that, because I don't even and mention any names because that gives people credit. And there's so many people we could really credit and honor from our own culture. Anyway, it's great to be back on your show, and I always enjoyed your singing when you sent me some of your songs that you had online, which is magical. Just as this Zoom is incredible. I can get a free trip to California and back just seeing you, and it's a wonderful thing. So I think the technology, as long as it's something that serves us, can be hugely helpful.
Yeah, well, I that's good to hear because that is the one thing that fries my brain over and over. But I was looking through, but I had from a friend I got a bunch of these collections. And hold on one second, I want to ask you about this because, or if I can, oh yeah. So I have two collections of Dizzy's. I have a later one and I have this one, the Dizzy Gillespie story, 1939 to 1950.
Wow. Oh yeah. He was
And
amazing.
yeah, it's like,
Then and up until he passed away, he remained amazing.
would you say that he, like Miles' sound really changed from when he was younger to when he was, as he grew older, right? Um, would you say Dizzy's sound changed or essence changed or because you knew him a long time? So, what, how would you say that he developed over this period of time?
Well, they just kept getting better and better at what they did. They were both great and
Yeah,
they were different.
yeah.
So when people would criticize Wynton Marsalis, for example, and say, he's no Freddie Hubbard. I said, well, Freddie Hubbard was no Freddie Hubbard the last 20 years that he played, but he still sounded great. He just did something different.
Yeah.
And when I met Miles, and I just did a program honoring his 100th birthday, and I told the story. I was at the Cafe Bohemia. I was playing with Charles Mingus, fortunately, just got to New York and just lucked out that he chose me to be part of his group. And on our night off, the whole band would come just to listen to whoever was there because all the musicians at the Cafe Bohemia hung out with one another, not because it was a great place to get work, because everybody that was there worked there occasionally and not too very often, not too many other places. But the music was fantastic. And I was sat next at the bar where I met Cecil Taylor, Allen Ginsberg, some other people were all sitting there, but we were just hanging out. And Miles would walk to the exit, and he before the slapping of palms, to give me some skin era, had not arrived in the National Football League or in the corporate business world where people would. So everybody, he would just give a different individual type of split as he was walking by.
Up, he froze a little bit. Or-
Instead of giving me some skin, was he as the customer, we all put our hand up. He went like that. I'm getting the cap. So, but not that just. And I said, wow, I guess he wants me to follow him. So I followed him all the way to Washington Square Park, about a 5-minute walk. He didn't say a word. Then he turned to me and he said, where are we going? I said, I don't know, Miles, I'm just following you. And he, he burst into laughter and we became friends. I think if I told him I love your playing and always have since I first heard that Kind of Blue record with Lee Konitz and all the people, that wonderful composers you had. I really enjoyed just how you played way back then and with Bird. He probably would have slapped me or punched me or get out of my face, whatever. But the fact that I didn't, I just said what I felt. He saw the humor in it, and he was pretty amazing. But with him and with most of the musicians and musicians I still meet, they have that ESP, I guess is the best way, extrasensory perception, where they can, you can feel what they're thinking and what they're feeling, and they can feel what you're feeling, but it goes beyond words, just the way the whales swim all the way across the ocean and go all the way back across the ocean. And you see the birds. When I lived on a farm before where I am now, I'm in farmlands, but with no farm. But when I had our own farm, we used to have a little pond that I had dug out. And sure enough, almost to the dot, bunch of geese would come from Canada all the way down somewhere down south. And then they come back and they landed in the same pond every year as part of their route was flying in the air. Not only that, but they could fly in those formations that were so incredible. And if they got disturbed by anything or felt unwelcome or saw an animal they thought might not be a fan of theirs, they split like a incredible champion Air Force group in a perfect formation. Now, how they did that, and what it was like to see a sunset and to see things in nature that happened, and how the magic of spring would, just when you're ready to pack it all in, springtime would come and rescue us from the death of winter. All of those things, they're kind of inexplicable. They're like that ESP. We'll never understand them. But being in music, I think, humbles you when you see all the stuff that can be done and has been done by people who operated using those sensibilities that we all have until we're talked out of it. That
Mm.
includes being creative. Yeah, it's good to hear you making up those rhymes and playing and singing and painting on the sidewalk in chalk, but you can't do it now because you're going into the first or second grade and it's wrong. And after the 200th person tells you it's wrong, and the 5,000th career counselor says, there's no future in a dead market that has no demographics for sales. After you hear that a few hundred times, it's contagious. We're only, only human after all. So what we're surrounded by, very often by people who mean to give you some good advice, and perhaps that's good advice for themselves, although judging by what most of the sourpusses were like that I met during my lifetime, and I'm 95, so I bumped into quite a few. I wouldn't think of them as role models for evolved personalities, to put it mildly. But there's so many musicians, including people playing in bars and people who play on weekends and play in bar mitzvah and wedding bands, but they've got that wonderful thing. And then the ones who really are nuts enough to go for it full time, regardless of whatever happens, which I guess has been my course. You, you develop something else that you just can't buy. You can't get it out of any book. You can't get it out of anything except other people. I call it the University of Hangoutology. So when I got my 8th honorary doctorate, which I was very honored, I told the students at the great conservatory in New England, I said, it's an honor even to be able to come in here and have something played, much less get this honor. But my education has come from the University of Hangoutology, which I'm a member of, lifetime scholarship student, and all of us can be learning from others who are better than you'll ever be and know more, but are gracious enough to share what they know. If you can say, please,
Yeah.
thank you, and then say, could you please show me that one more time a little slower, please? And could you please tell me rhythmically, where's the one actually begin?
Yeah.
And a few simple things like that are a lifetime study. Then you get to try to figure out the feeling of all the different types of music that there are. And in jazz, there's every kind of music involved in that still. There's still enough of that tradition where you can be searching and listening and observant.
Yeah.
And and all the great classical music, which I love just as much, is conversational. It sounds like they're talking to you. Sounds like Beethoven and Mozart are telling you something. It's telling a story. So when you play it as I did at the 125 Club up in Harlem, if you're having a good night, and people would say, "Speak, speak, speak to me. Tell your story. Tell your story." That was the same thing. The idea of communicating something,
Yeah.
and that's a wonderful thing. Jazz reminded us that we're all creative, that people who just sit and play beautifully and freelance players who don't improvise are still just as creative. They're recreators. They're creating the fly specks on the paper and making it their own story. And
Yeah.
how they feel is what, and then how they make the audience feel, and how the audience feeling that special thing that they're being talked to by the music sends something back out. And then you feel that and you play even better. Well, you can't teach that or describe that, but I think that's what it's about. And as a composer, which I am still primarily, 95, I'm still grinding away, writing concert music for no reason except that I love to do it and feel that's what I'm here to do. I try to make everyone feel what it's like to be maybe in Egypt, like I was playing with a whole bunch of people that are like incredible, or Pakistan or Sri Lanka or any place in Latin America, or I went to Cuba with Dizzy several times when I played in Brazil, other countries, other cultures, and places all across the United States where they have different, wonderful kinds of music and unique to that community. That's a wonderful way to spend your life if you can pay the rent doing something and survive. And I recommend it for everybody. So I say to
Were
all the
you,
young,
I'm just curious, were you in most of those, like playing with Dizzy and stuff? Were you playing French horn at that time with those
yeah,
groups?
primarily. Now I have my horn and I have to follow Dizzy's instructions, which is he would say, "Every night I go to sleep, that trumpet's lying in the case waiting for me." He said, "And I get up in the morning, it's right there." And sometimes I have a day where the trumpet wins. Sometimes I win. It's always a struggle. But with all his incredible chess playing and storytelling and jokes and wonderful things that he did, you get to be with him. He'd be back on the side there practicing.
Yeah.
And so many people remember the great young trumpet player that died. Roy was so amazing the way he would always try to find times to practice. And when we were on a bus with Oscar Pettiford's big band, all the people that were in that were either talking about different harmonies or playing or how to play a certain scale or mode that might fit into something. It was like a conservatory of music all the time. And the
Yeah.
people were still in love with the music, not with the music business, but
Yeah.
realizing that we had to transcend that, somehow deal with that without having letting yourself down or
Yeah.
be beaten down, but to bypass all of that stuff. Because we have to remember people that work in gas stations and carpenters and lawyers and doctors too, the so-called professions, because it's all professional, have sometimes a very hard row to hoe and to try to keep together and be a good parent, a good person. And they never have anybody even say thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they very seldom find another person that loves their gig.
Hey,
So
you just brought up something. I was curious. It makes me think of acknowledgement because so, so much of what we do is not necessarily acknowledged, you know, because what you're describing, it's a quest, it's a it's a commitment, a force. I mean, it's within us that drives us. And we're not necessarily looking for acknowledgement. When it happens in a very real way, it's beautiful, right? It's very touching. But I don't know, you have anything to say about acknowledgement? It's kind of an interesting subject.
Well, I, to be perfectly frank,
Yes.
when you finally get to a point, uh, I think Elvis Presley had the best way to deal with that, whether he was playing it in a stadium or not Yankee Stadium. Not, he didn't play Yankees. I don't think he played. He played at Madison Square Garden, I believe, in huge places. Everybody be cheering and screaming, and sometimes the women would take off their little under things and throw them on the stage and everything. His response to all that appreciation was, "Thank you very much. Thank you very much." And then he would go off, pick his check up, and go home. Or when he's playing in a bar with his friends from Memphis, people would come up and ask for his autograph. He'd say, sign and say, "Thank you very much." And he kind of put that in a different compartment. And I realized when I finally was getting some appreciation, it was almost embarrassing. And, and all I learned a long time ago was when people said, "That was fabulous, marvelous." You just, and you really wanted to give a half-hour lecture how much you thought it sucked because you were playing out of tune, and then you were sharp, and then you were flat, and then you thought of some great ideas, but it was mumbling and scuffling and couldn't get them out, and it wasn't together, and you just felt guilty that we were doing that in front of other people, anybody, even at a rehearsal with musicians, and just sounded rotten. But I was told a long time ago in Paris by Joan Mitchell, a great painter, who sort of took me under her wing. And she said, "You were so rude to that woman who was complimenting." I said, "Well, I spoke French fluently. I figured I was trying to be un petit gentilhomme, a little gentleman." And she said, "No," she said, "she really enjoyed it. And you made her feel like a fool because you were telling how terrible it was." And I said, "Yes, but," and I started giving a big rap about how rotten it was. She said, "I'm not interested in hearing about that." And she was not only not interested in hearing, you were insulting her. I said, "I was just trying to be truthful." She said, "Well, don't be truthful. Just say thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and leave it at that, and keep the other part to yourself." And she certainly wouldn't have said that by just speaking to you afterwards, just seeing you not only disagreed with her, but you thought that she loved was rotten. And that was a hard thing, and you could feel your digestive system, when you feel. And Tom Chapin, Harry's brother, wonderful, wonderful singer, folk musician,
Yeah.
singer,
Yeah.
and improviser too. When I never heard the expression, we were walking off and everybody was cheering because he was so charming and wonderful and all that. And he turned to me and he said, "We fooled him again."
I
So
have heard that a lot.
I think that the thing is you have to do what a great guitar player told me, who was a fabulous player and singer as well. He said, "It's not just enough to play hot solos and stare at your shoelaces. You have to remember there's people there sometimes paying to see it. And you have to acknowledge them by at least looking out and saying thank you, or doing something to show that you know that they're part of it. And maybe because of them." And since I'm 95, when I was a teenager and playing with these terrific guys, they were all stand around in a circle afterwards and say, "What are we going to play next?" And the people would be sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And then someone would say, nah, that's what they want. In other words, the audience was your enemy. And when I first came to New York in
They weren't
1950,
in the club or something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I came in 1955 to New York, and as I was at the Manhattan School of Music studying composition and counterpoint and playing and studying French horn, not composition, French horn with Gunther Schuller, who was first horn in the Met. And he didn't play jazz, but he played with jazz artists and he loved the music. I
Yeah.
understood it. He just never went to improvise and got into that. And they did fantastic. It was an amazing composer, conductor, and organizer and everything. And he, he always said, that there was a divide between the classical and jazz worlds, but it was all basically, and folk, but it was all basically the same thing of all of us being here as service to that music. And if it was musical, you should check it out. And when I went to, well, Thelonious Monk invited me to his place, and I used to go there, and he and his wife Nellie and the two kids were just amazing. It was so much love and warmth. And one time he went in and he was listening to the AM radio, and I could hear that. And I was brought up on a farm in Pennsylvania, so I liked country music, because that's mostly what you heard, polka music and what wasn't cowboy music, we were called. And this woman was singing, wow, bow wow, my dog, wow. I said, I got one on my dog, not a sow. How? And I said, good God, how are they playing that on AM radio in New York City, which is I even knew that was a big city with a big bunch of big radio stations. I thought, what is Thelonious Monk, who is such an architectural, harmonic genius, doing listening to that so intently? After about 40 minutes, he had to sit over. I said, Monk, you really like this kind of music? And he said, listen to the drummer. I said, oh. So I just kept quiet, believe it or not, and played about 3 or 4 more things. And he said, check out his brushwork. Then I told that story to Sonny Rollins because he was sitting in with Mingus at that time of playing like a god. Every solo he made was like a Beethoven concerto. It's like you wouldn't want to change one note or anything. And I said, Sonny, I heard a tenor player just playing the same instrument you do, and all it was that. He was playing one note for 4 minutes. He said, don't put that cat down. That's the best he can do. And in the case of both Monk and Sonny, they were telling a young guy, don't be judgmental of what other people are doing. Try to find some beauty somewhere within that framework. And if you don't appreciate anything they're doing, they've already done it, so you don't have to be yourself.
Yeah.
And study and work hard and practice and pay those famous dues and all of that. So by the time you roll around, Naxos Records just have a whole bunch of things that are being recorded of my classical music. They made a new CD, and has my violin concerto that I wrote in 1960.
Oh,
My
wow.
piano sonata that I wrote in 1960, and a piece for unaccompanied violin that I just wrote a year and a half ago.
Oh.
And I listened back. I said, wow, it's too late to change the 1960 pieces. They sounded good. I said, that little rascal wasn't bad for. And I listened to the new piece I wrote, and I said, that still sounds like me somehow. And I was kind of shocked, and I didn't know what to do, but I was fortunate that the people that played it loved it. and didn't just grind away and crank it out so they could use it to be used as a tax write-off for somebody, but to actually listen to. And now that I'm writing concert music almost all the time, except when I go out to play a few gigs here and there and do different stuff, I realize that, and I'm told you only have 3% of the market as shrinking, and they don't have public radio anymore, this and that, blah, blah, wine grown. That's okay, but so what?
Yeah.
As Miles called that great song in his Kind of Blue record.
Yeah.
So what? If you feel you were put here to do that and you want to do it, not just composing, but anything, find a way to do it. And don't allow yourself to be swayed by someone who hates their job and doesn't like people and probably isn't, their kids are kind of nasty as a result of that. And find a different way.
Yeah.
And you don't have to be a freak to do that. It's just, that's actually a very normal way of looking at it. It's kind of an abnormal situation. And it's always been
Yeah.
tough. You know,
Well,
you
you
read,
know, I mean, so your career has been so thick, and varied. Um, and I mean, that's why I always love talking to you now, too, because you've been a lot of places, but also there's nothing in the way, like with communicating with you. There's not like these big, thick walls of
oh, yeah.
considerations, it's just like,
Oh, yeah.
and that's why I love talking with you. It's great. It's just, it's real. It's what's happening. And but can you give anybody some advice, like who's listening, or not advice, but some kind of point of view advice, like how to move ahead. I mean, it's all everything that comes out of your mouth to me is like a lesson, but in this specific moment, could you talk about what you know what do you do? You have something creative you want to do, but then you have all these blah blah blah. You can't do that, blah, 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 or whatever. So what do you do? What do you just? I know
Well,
you said so what, but
I would say when you're told by career counselors or lawyers or business geniuses or members of your own family,
yeah,
don't waste your time doing that. You could do that later on. That's when after I did the Manchurian Candidate in 1962, I said that you could do 7 movies in a year. I said, good Lord, I would have been a millionaire. I was paying $85 a month rent in New York City. I said, I'm going to go back to New York. They said, well, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm finishing a sacred service for the Park Avenue Synagogue. There was a big pause. What's that pay you? I said, $500. I screamed with laughter. And I said, but I feel, I said I was going to do it. And to me, it's an honor to be asked to do it. And I was told then by a big time lawyer, you can do all that creative stuff later. I said, man, there is no later. Charlie Parker told me in 1952 when I was a really young cat, now is the time. And he wrote that 1945, and it was 1952 when he told me that. I said,
wow,
that was
cool.
7 years ago, and 7 years in a 21-year-old person's life is a long time. He said, no, man. I said, now's the time. And when I worked with Jack Kerouac, he always would speak of the sanctity of the now, not all that other stuff about how to be creative. And so I would say for young people, if they want to do something and all they can do technically is play chopsticks, bing, bing,
Yeah.
bing, 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 one for one figure. Lionel Hampton was a vibe player, and he used it was a great two-handed picker. He saw this instrument in a recording studio where he was making a recording, and they said, why don't you play one? He says, oh, I can do that. I just use sticks instead of my fingers. And he played his first solo. He never played the xylophone before. It was not a xylophone, but what we call the vibraphone now with that. It was just the metal, this wooden ones that they had. And So I would say for anyone who's getting instructed, first of all, when you're told how much you suck and there's no reason to do it and nobody's going to do it, you're not going to meet any glamorous women that want to support you or get any big awards or be able to do anything. Just appreciate all that wise advice, but hang out with somebody else. And
Right.
if you're told, which I was by the Jack Kerouac's literary agent, Sterling Lord, he said, "You just beat Jack's record." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "He got 25 rejections for that book." He said, "You've just got your 26th." But then I finally had someone that liked it. The first one I wrote in 1965, Vibrations. I guess it came out in 68, but I was writing it during that time. And I remember thinking about that. And Barney Ross, who had the Evergreen Review, his great intellectual publication, said, David, when you write your symphony music and chamber music, it has a beginning, a middle, an end. It has tempo changes, contrast, variety, is really well structured. Said your book was 465 pages of one sentence, all fortissimo. I said, look, that's the way I speak. So I was just at that time, I'm trying just to say what it was. And he said, yes, but it's on a third grade reading level. And I said, well, Barney, that's my audience. And I always say that because the most advice that I've ever gotten that to me was helpful was learning something from someone who might say you could do this and that better, or you could fulfill this in a more developed way. But somehow the old thing of the Amen corner saying, tell your stories, speak, preach,
Yeah.
tell you,
Yeah.
and that isn't only true in African American sanctified churches. You go to different countries and there's that participatory thing in every kind of culture and every kind of music. And when
Yeah.
you go to Italy and hear an opera, people are singing along and they're singing during intermission and they go home singing some of the stuff afterwards.
Mm.
And everybody has that same passion. And we've been, and dance, playing for dancers is such a wonderful thing. And we've separated the forms of music and the forms within the forms of music and the regional roots of those musics to the point where it's hard to see the relationship between all the different kinds of musics that are here. Well, we have, if you go on Google, I think it's 175 different things on Google Translate of different languages, including some I've never heard of. But they're languages that are spoken. And it's the same thing. Music is a bunch of different languages. And then when you get into one language, you say, I got it now. Je suis bien content d'être ici. I'm very happy to be here. If you go to Montreal, you say, je suis très heureux d'être ici. Par la participation de ce pays ici, on parle français totalement différent que les Américains ou bien différent que les Français. You're doing the same thing, the same language, but a whole different way because it has a different, and you're going across the same thing where when I was conducting the Montreal Symphony, they would say, no, the woman who ran it was terrific. I've had 8 years of doing that. I have to write the stuff out, which I never did. Usually I'd have a few notes maybe because I couldn't remember when the composer was born. I wanted to tell the kids that, but the rest I did in English and in French. She practiced and she said, I don't want the children to speak in a slang way. They must be parfaitement. I always say, bonjour, mes amis. You say, no. Bonjour, mes amis. And every little But then Alexander Schneider, the great violinist in the Budapest String Quartet, told me, he said, there are 20 ways to play this quartet, and they're all correct. So I would say if people studying jazz, songwriting, American studies, life on the planet Earth in the 21st century, go to New Orleans and hang out there as much as possible, not getting in trouble, but just for the music and the spirit and
Not
to
getting in trouble. What?
see, well, see a bunch of 12, well, you can get in trouble every place, but New Orleans has a history of people getting in trouble. And sometimes you can't get out as quickly. The last time I went there, we did a thing honoring Hunter S. Thompson. We got all the way down, and the plane was 4.5 hours late.
Oh,
But I said, they already had gotten someone to do the introductory thing. I was the only one alive that knew Hunter. And, and we went there. My daughter, bless her heart, who was helping me out, knew where I was staying. So she said, Daddy, I think you're on TV. I said, what? We just got to this. She said, no, no. She said, are the cops out there and the FBI and the SWAT teams with dogs? And I said, yeah. She says, well, you're on TV. We see that. You're staying in the place where they think that some of the 12 convicts escaped and they're in that building. I said, whoa. And I was just there, fortunately we snuck out. And the only reason we even got into the building was because the property manager was backing up her car and she saw some of the policemen and they recognized her because she's been there all her life and she was a property manager for that little place we were staying. And she said, okay, you can go in. He said, that old guy doesn't look like he's a revolutionary pyromaniac or murderer. So I was allowed to sneak in. And then we were told, she was told and called us on the phone and said, you're not allowed to go out of your room or watch or speak or anything. I said, wow. The beautiful part of New Orleans is still, there's that wonderful root culture that somehow with all the bad business things that have happened and racism and bad politics and all that stuff, everyone from all over the world just about has migrated there. And each of those people's groups still have retained their culture or cultures. And when you're in New Orleans, you can see the musical culture of musical language of our roots musics that come from so many different places. And more important, the spirit and the attitude that the musicians have, especially the ones who were born there, of playing with and for other people. So when you come down and someone said, I want to play Cherokee like that tempo, guys started playing like incredible. And then one of the trombonists said, slow down, man. We want to hear you tell your story. You're not in New York now. We just want to hear you play some music. And being able to play with people without ever rehearsing, which we learned to do, that's considered to be that way. And people can walk up and sit in with other people. And so the last time I was there, I said, boy, these guys sound good, but they're practicing so late. It's midnight. And I was wandering around trying to get in trouble, but I was in the wrong neighborhood. But it was just so beautiful. And here the kids were marching down the street, and I swear they were between 10 and 12 years old. I didn't ask them for the identification, but you could tell they were young kids, and they were being led by a trombone player. So I went to one of these great trombone players. Said, boy, now that I said all of us were in love with Jack Teagarden since my elders loved him. But I said, now the trombone shorty and all these other people have come along. The instrument's really out there again. And he said, no, I said, this is Trombone City. He said, we go out and play those second lines. We can march for 2 hours and still play our horns and then go at a faster tempo from the cemetery back home. He said, this is Trombone City. He said, I have 10 relatives in this town that I'm related to who played the trombone.
Wow.
And then when I saw those little kids, and then when they have the neighborhood stuff, they have the kids come along and play with their bands. And that famous picture of jazz and the afternoon in Harlem, when they had all the great musicians in one place, and they had all the little kids sitting in front. That was the musician's idea, not the people who were taking the picture, to say, let's have some kids in there to show them we want to pass on this music.
Yeah.
And that happens in every type of music. So I think the jazz and the best of folk music and the early rock and roll players certainly, and some of the ones that are there now, remind us that we're here to put out something for other people that we've learned by living it ourselves.
Yeah.
And secondly, that you have to honor the communities that those people who we consider to be geniuses came from. And rather than saying, as they did in Jack Kerouac case, he came from a wretched environment of working class, low class people, and the French Canadians were at the bottom of the socioeconomic barrel and were considered to be the trash of the earth. And somehow he overcame these wretched, horrible practice of Catholicism and going to church and living with his mother and being patriotic and loving America. And he overcame all those stupid values and wrote some successful books. Well, that's fine to feel that way, I guess. But there was
Wait,
some.
who was he speaking of?
It was Jack Kerouac.
But what was he speaking of?
Oh,
Hunter?
he wasn't speaking about anything. When I was saying
Oh,
how much I enjoyed playing with him for 12
yeah,
years
yeah,
and what a fantastic writer he was and what a great guy he was as a
yeah.
person, down home, warm, unpretentious person. And they started saying all this stuff. I said, wow, that's the same thing that they say about people of color. They came from East Harlem when those Puerto Ricans, those Puerto Ricans came from East Harlem and some kind of Spanish, and they're not even Americans. Big Bunny's name was, boy, what a great player. He came in the halftime for the Super Bowl, and instead of getting somebody that just had a tremendous fireworks display and a bunch of dancers spastically doing what they were told to do by lawyers that couldn't sing or dance, they just played some great music. And people said to me, they're not Americans. They had the football and they had some American talent. Why don't they use American talent? They're speaking in Spanish. I said, well, when I was in the Army, 52 to 54, I had played with a Latin group, so I spoke some Spanish, and I was hanging out with the guys, and I said, it's wonderful of you guys to come and volunteer to be in the United States Army. They said, man, we didn't volunteer. We got drafted just like you. I said, oh. And they said, yeah, we're American citizens. We can't vote here unless we have official residency here. But we're American. We're the last of the Commonwealth idea. And I said, wow. I mean, so I said to anybody that whined and complained about Big Bunny not speaking American, known as English, which we don't speak either. Come on in. Oh, excuse me, just what? Hi. Oh, hi. Oh, just beginner. Come on. Oh, don't. Where'd you go, Cathy?
I'm here.
Where? I hear.
I'm still on the screen.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking in the wrong place. This is Eileen, who plays the penny whistle and loves music. And loves music.
Thanks to the maestro.
And she and your audience will be glad to know that my time is just about up because I have to go. When you're 95, something has to go wrong. So I have to go to physical therapy and see if I can.
Oh, you do? I didn't know that, but are you going to go now?
Well, what is it? I'm supposed to leave it.
We have a little.
It's just 4:00. My Lord, you're on.
I'm on time.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
we
got-
could say that. My word, I'm on
Oh, that's
time.
got.
I have a problem being on time sometimes.
They have a wonderful orchestra here, an improvisers orchestra. And Eileen plays with them, plays with the orchestra. Oh, it used to be able to be seen like not invisible. But the reason I
Move
mentioned it
over, Eileen.
Yeah.
the thing that I mentioned about
See anything.
you know, sources, neighborhoods, and where you come from and what you do.
Yeah.
They were saying in a certain sense that some of the jazz geniuses that we know about who were in the history books, it came and were geniuses, which they certainly were, and gave us so much, but they came in spite of their community and environment that they came out of. And that's the most racist thing of all, because then you're dumping on the people, diminishing what they've done, and you're dumping on the thousands of people that they grew up with and got something from.
Hmm.
And so in a certain way, really studying music and studying different kinds of music, and if you find one that you love to do, maybe concentrating, but always being open, you can be a human being
Yeah.
with other human beings. And the other way of looking at it, the way, the Canadian idea of the mosaic rather than the melting pot.
Hmm.
And Dizzy explained the melting
That's
pot.
nice. Yeah.
He said, you take the most precious ingredients of your culture, whatever cultures, and
Yeah.
you put that into that pot. And when you partake of that pot, you are nourished by everyone's excellence and idealism for the most beautiful part of their culture, which they're putting into the pot, and you become nourished by that. And then if you're in New Orleans long enough, you become New Orleanized. I said, wow. That explained to me why I was always so touched by it since I was 13, 14. And my uncle, who was a merchant seaman, shipped out of the port of New Orleans and took me there. And I always felt that spirit. I didn't know anything about anything intellectually, but I felt that spirit, and I felt the spirit when musicians were playing together. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think for people, especially in the United States, not to appreciate our own indigenous musics in the plural, because there's so many kinds, is means you can go through your whole life and not realize how lucky you are to be here.
Yeah.
And as far as any ugliness, wretchedness, bad vibes, and ill manners and rotten conditions that may exist, they're everywhere in the world. And usually, very often, they're the predominant thing that everyone has to go through. But they have some sense of culture and language and music and dance and food and how to bring up your children and how to act with adults and how to act with everybody else that we desperately need here and we don't have.
Yeah.
And you can't get that from, you can see all the commercials on television about if you take this and that pill, you'll be more sexually attractive, you'll be healthier, live longer, you'll be more wealthier and better looking. The only thing is that in the tiny print, they're forced to say, according, I guess, to the FDA or what, but they haven't gotten rid of that one yet, that it might create blindness, ruin your liver, your bladder, or kill you. So I don't think it's worth dying for to buy some product where you could probably see a herbologist and get better advice. And people that are the most upset by that are the doctors I've met who say, don't trust anything. It's online. It wouldn't be that good, or it wouldn't be online. We'd be doing it.
I went to New Orleans in January.
Isn't this something?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I went there for the GEN conference, the Jazz Educators Network
Oh, right.
conference, and it was great. I wandered the streets. I found all kinds of incredible music. I'd never been, no, I had been to New Orleans once a long, long time ago, but I just never, I don't know. I don't even know where I was at that time, but it must have been the main city. But it was really fun. This one gig I saw, I thought I would walk home, and I got kind of lost and I was a little nervous and I saw these three older guys walking like they had a purpose. So I started following them. It turned out it turned out that they were musicians and that they knew musicians that I know in LA, and they
Wow.
gave me a ride to my hotel. It was so funny. It was like, yeah, that, I don't know. That's a beautiful thing if you just kind of let go and you're traveling and you let go, and you just kind of trust what's going on. But yeah, New Orleans, really amazing feel, and the people playing that I heard were just wonderful. It was great. I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it's a big, and you then, when you know that it's there, you can find something similar in most cities.
Absolutely.
And you can
Yeah.
find that in the countryside where
Yeah.
they sing that shape note music and sing. Sometimes they have, Sunday picnics and stuff where everybody will sing and play.
Yeah.
All
Hey,
kinds of
I,
things that
I'm
are
gonna since
spontaneously happening.
you don't have a lot of time left, right?
Yeah,
You
we
don't
have
have
to
a
be
lot
there.
of time.
About 10 minutes, I would say.
What time is it now?
Okay.
Yeah, we have to be there at
About 10
4:30.
minutes. Okay, so I just want to I would like to I know who you are and all this stuff, but I and I definitely remember things that you told me before. I remember how you met Charlie Mingus. I remember, but I just wanted to give people an idea of kind of the broad scope of what you've done, and you can interrupt me, but you I guess you started playing jazz on your French horn, and then, but you had already been trained classically, right? So you were writing, and you became the uh, what for the New York
The
Symphony?
first composer in residence.
Yeah. Okay. So those things are huge all by themselves. And then, so then but I mean, in recent years, I've called you and you've been on the road with folk artists and been invited to speak, maybe about Allen Ginsberg or Jack Kerouac or Hunter Thompson. Um, and so you oh, and not to mention the movie, the date. What is it? The Daisy. What is that movie?
That was one we did with Jack Kerouac. Pull My Daisy. That
Pull
was
My Daisy. Guys watching, you have to check this movie out. It's too much. Have you seen it, Eileen?
Not yet. I know it's
Oh,
crazy, but I know the music from the film.
yeah. Oh my God. It's quite it's quite entertaining. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's so much. I just didn't want. I mean, I haven't even mentioned, most anything. But you're always busy. You're always doing something. As you said, right now you're composing, right?
Always have been composing. That was the
Yeah,
thing that sort of kept me from going nuts. Or,
yeah,
or I'd say that's something I wanted to do so much that I did. It probably was nuts to do it, but I'm still doing it. And when I did the score for The Manchurian Candidate and Splendor in the Grass and those films, I wrote everything and orchestrated it all myself. And when I was in Hollywood, and they said, "What, you sit there in a room?" And I said, "Well, I want it to be the way I want it to be,
yeah,
and I'm having the chance to do it. So I want to put my best out there. And that's what I do. I'm a composer." And they looked at me like I was a sword maker. Why would you sit and do all that work and could get somebody else to do it? And I spoke to many of the composers there who told me when they went out there, it was so great, but when they started to do better, they were expected to do less and less. And that if you didn't go to parties and network and hustle, you would end up having to do anything that came along. And I said, well, that means in 5 years they get sick of me and get another David Amram. I'd be their ghostwriter and probably make more money than I ever would as the composer. But I wanted to compose. So I did a movie with Barbara Koppel, who's wonderful independent film, won 2 Oscars for independent filmmaking. I've worked with some really wonderful cinematographers, but I enjoy writing music and the symphonic variations on a song by Woody Guthrie.
yeah.
Now I just reorchestrated that for Wind Symphony, and I'm going out to Ohio State uh, to hear the premiere of the Wind Orchestra version.
Oh,
And if the traffic's messed up, I'll drive with my son. He's prepared to take the 16 hours in the car if we have to be there.
Wow.
And I'm played tomorrow and doing this, the showing Pull My Daisy. I'm speaking about Jack Kerouac because the 4 books have been written about him. And I've written 4 books myself. I'm working on the 5th one. But the only reason I mentioned all that is that all the people that I admired and were hard workers, but they loved what they did and they had time for people.
Yeah.
And that's so important
Yeah.
as a person. So at 95, instead of being a grouchy, embittered, angry, competitive, soured, miserable old, I won't use any bad language. I can still have some pleasure in life just of doing what I dreamed of doing someday.
Yeah.
And accepting the fact that there's some things I dreamed of doing that I won't be doing, but someone else is doing that.
Yeah. Do you ever get tired, David?
Pardon?
Do you ever get tired?
Oh, definitely. I was at a peace demonstration, if you could call it that. I would think of it that way, but they weren't throwing tear gas. It was in Saugerties, New York. And I had to sit in the cold, and I was really tired yesterday.
Well, he was the first one there. Out of all of these hundreds of people that came, he was the first one there to get a good spot.
Well,
So,
they saw the little
Wow.
sign at the-
Okay.
as I put U.S. Army draftee,
yeah,
1952
Yeah.
to 1954.
Oh, wow.
The cops, instead of saying, well, there's some old burnout hippie or something that is going to start calling me names, I said, man, this year 95. I said, yeah. I said if they draft me, if they draft people my age, I'm really in trouble. So instead of having a nasty political conversation, we just hung out like people.
Yeah.
And that's something you can do with everybody. And I feel that's politically the best way you can behave is to try to have some manners and have appreciation for everybody.
Yeah.
And all the people that I mentioned so far were open-minded and looked for the beauty part in everything and everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well,
I think music
David,
teaches you that.
you're quite a special human. I really love you. I love speaking with you. Somebody, Jeff Piagari, Chef, he just wanted to know how nice was Leonard Bernstein and Lionel Hampton to work with.
Well, I was extremely lucky and am lucky and try to be worthy of the luck that I've had. And also to help other people and with younger musicians, younger composers, younger players to try to put 5% of what I receive from them into at least saying hello. When I play Farm Aid with Willie Nelson and you just look over and see, gives you a smile. Boy, you feel good for a day. When playing with Dizzy, you felt like you were the greatest. You know, they not only did something so spectacularly well themselves, they made you feel that I was part of it. I was always for real. It wasn't an act,
Yeah.
because that's they were off stage as well as on stage.
Yeah.
And that's something. So if nothing else, all of us have something to aspire to. So if we put out our imagery of successful people as being trillionaires that frighten other people, that's okay. That's a reality. But I think that's a part, or that if you're going to be an artist, you have to have a miserable life, be a professional victim, and die really young. I'd say premature expiration is highly overrated. Sometimes it takes 50 years for somebody to be appreciated.
Okay, on that note, I'm going to let you go. I know you guys have to go. Thank you for coming on again. It was, it's always wonderful to speak with you. Nice to meet you too.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.
Great.
Um, yeah, and I think I'll play a few things after you go. I'm gonna play a little clip from what that TV show, David Letterman, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was done 41 years ago. My son's 42 years ago. He was born just 42 years ago in the month of March. And when I played at the time, people said, yeah, so what? What a freak. Wow. And now when they show up, people 42 years later it got re-released. And it looks like a lot of orchestras and stuff are doing that now. I would conduct them and play all and show where the instruments came from.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. We'll do that. And maybe we'll take a little listen to the Manchurian Candidate and Splendor in the Grass just for fun too. Thank you, David. Thanks for being here.
Well, listen, it's good to see you again, and I hope please send me more of your records.
Okay, I will.
And that's the great thing, folks. In case you don't know it, you can hear Cathy Segal, and you go online and look her up, and you can get, if you're lucky enough to get an email and you have something you've written yourself, you can send it to anybody in the world and they'll get to hear you. There's no longer a gigantic rock taking 95% of the people and telling them, you're invisible, you suck, go away, unless you want to buy something. You can create something yourself.
Yeah. Here. Have a good day. Have a good test or
You too.
PT or
also
whatever.
for your radio show, and generally speaking, as they're trying to cancel out National Public Radio and national this and that, the college stations and your independent shows and podcasts, they used to be considered the last reward on earth before hitting starvation. That's now become the big time for the serious, profound arts, because that's what's there.
Yeah.
So it's one of we can have a different perception, and that all of those things are part of the creative world too.
Yeah.
And it's our gig to make the situations we're in more creative and of a higher level.
Yeah.
The stuff we've been exposed to, most of which we got for practically nothing, from the people who got for practically nothing for doing it. Then if you read the letters and read their childhoods and read what they went through to get to the point where they suddenly became icons after they were dead.
Yeah.
It turns out you don't feel sorry for yourself. You just feel happy that you're able to be in that world.
Yeah.
And everybody's in that world. All you have to do is want to do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
See you soon. Let me know when you're coming back east again.
Okay, I will.
Great.
Yes. I'm going to look you up.
Thank
And
you.
listen.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.